Institute. So I'm actually just getting to work, and I just felt like making a live. Honestly, I did not plan this. This was extremely, extremely unplanned. And I'm like that. I'm actually a very random person. Um, which I mean, I do plan things sometimes, but then sometimes, like, I was literally just kind of sitting here, and I just started thinking about random stuff, as I normally do, because I've just accepted I'm a very deep thinker. Ah! And I've also accepted that sometimes I may even think a bit too much. I think there can be a thing of I mean, in my opinion, it's good to think, but I do think it is such a thing as overthinking or thinking too much. Uh, for example, like, I feel like in my life, I've literally thought way more about life than what I should. Like, I was thinking about stuff more than I was doing stuff, and I actually still do this sometimes. I think we all do, but you know, I'm in a point right now where I'm kind of, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm still thinking too, but at least I'm trying to incorporate doing more in life instead of just thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and not, doing as much. And that's a very, very, it's a very hard pattern to break, you know, because I feel like it's more of like a survival mechanism. I was just watching a video um just now, one of my favorite channels to watch, a channel called Little Alex. Um and she made a video about, she was talking about, being afraid to, take the right path. And like, so you can be so afraid that, of making a choice in life, which, just any kind of decision or major decision, could be financial, it could be your living situation, it could be anything, and, we'll get so afraid to do something or not do something, or what if it doesn't work out? What if all this work is for nothing? And, a lot of my life, I've been doing that. I've been just paralyzed, and, you know, should I just work a corporate job and then kind of be in the matrix and not live the actual life that I want to work, because that can be more stable and safe? Or do I want to actually take, really huge risk and, try entrepreneurial type feats and stuff like that, and potentially, like, create a completely different reality that I will much rather prefer to live, and, somehow figure out how to use things like that to manifest more freedom and financial freedom and just freedom in general, to actually, create a life that I actually designed. Like, do I do that? Do I just kind of step out on this crazy, nonsensical almost, endeavor or adventure or journey to do things that I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm just doing it because I want to be brave enough to try to experience something different than all that I know? If that makes any sense. I know I kind of said a mouthful, but I'm just kind of just expressing this as I can. I guess I don't fucking know. And it's scary. It's terrifying because, this is our life that we have to live, and if we don't get this right, even though I don't think there's actually a right or wrong path, I think there's just paths, you know, and but it's very scary because, it's kind of like a jungle. as far as like life and survival is concerned, because you can make one decision and your life can be very, very hard for the foreseeable or non-foreseeable future. And each path and decision that we make, it it can be extremely detrimental or it can be extremely rewarding. And that's where the fear and the anxiety comes in, for me at least, because it's like, damn, do I want to put my all into something, and that's all this time, and this is time and years off of my life that I can't get back in the in the time that I have to be alive, and also do things while I'm alive and experience things while I'm alive that I might not be able to experience after a certain point. So, you know, just going back to the YouTuber's video I was talking about, Little Alex, um, I really understand that, because it's like, man, when you get so afraid to make a decision, she was like, sometimes you don't make a decision. And like, I'm the exact same way. Like, sometimes I'll have all these amazing ideas, and like, but then it's like, do I really want to take that much time and energy and put into something when I don't know what's actually going to happen? I just hope that it, ends up in a good, circumstance, or a good result, or a good place in life, you know, but then committing to it, like not knowing what's actually going to happen. I think like and I feel like even when I talk about it, it makes me really anxious, because it's just like, to do anything worthwhile, people always say, it takes a lot of time and it's not easy. And you're going to mess up a lot and get it wrong a lot before you actually figure out how to do it right. And so that's anything that's worth doing or creating is normally like that, and I believe that. I believe that, anything that's really rewarding and worth, doing because of the reward, I think it it's like that. But not all things, though. Not all things. I think it also depends on, what level of perspective and, how you're looking at things too, or where you're at experientially, you know. Um, but I don't believe that all things should be extremely hard to acquire either. I do believe that most things that, are, I would say, life experiencing circumstances, or changing life experience, like I would say changing quality of life circumstances, I would say it's probably not easy. It's probably going to be pretty dang hard, because it is so life changing, right? So yeah, I just, you know I fear that. I share that fear, and I feel like that's why I just don't do anything, because I'm just like, I realize how much energy and time I put into some things, and sometimes I just kind of snap out of it and think, man, I'm not going to be able to get this time back. You know, even like now, I just kind of, watch as, this illusion of linear time conceptually passes, and we're all pretty much decaying every day. And then when you start to see people around you, your parents, your family, you know, everybody and everything slowly decaying, or, dissolving into eternity before your face, otherwise known as aging, or the illusion of aging, it kind of reminds you of this illusion that we're all in. And then simultaneously being aware of that, and still coming back to the present moment, and realizing that you have a limited time to do what you want to do in this you know movie. I don't even know what to call it, because it's literally on a timer. We're all on timers. We're decaying and withering away in every moment. And the fuck is up? Well, I guess I'm seeing shit. Oh well, same shit, different day. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I really think about that. I think about it, and I just realize, how we're all on kind of borrowed time, so to speak. You know, how fleeting everything is. I actually had a topic about with this live, and the reason that I'm kind of slowing down, I'm ashamed to say I forgot what that. That was part of the reason why I got on here, is because I did have a talking point, and it kind of just slipped my mind. Just I hate when that happens. It'll come back, but honestly, I trying to think, what was I going to say? All right, pause. All right, I'm reconnecting. Sorry, but I don't know. Sometimes I kind of just forget, you know, as we all do. When I say forget, I mean forget, depending on what level of awareness you're on, or I guess you could say how deep you've gone down the metaphorical rabbit hole or symbolic rabbit hole of existence. Um, you may understand what I'm saying more or less. I guess it just depends on, again, how far where you're at on your journey of self, or forgetting self, or coming back to self, or remembering self, however you want to say it. I mean, you can say it a billion different ways, but it's pretty much all the same thing. This, whatever this experience is, whatever life is, whatever existence is, nobody can, I don't think anybody will ever truly be able to, say definitively what this is, because what this is doesn't even know or understand what this is. So, but it's still a coming back to whatever this is, and remembering that that is what this is. What this is something that cannot be defined. It's something that's undefinable. Existence, eternity, being, consciousness, it's something that cannot be defined. People say it just is. It's like, well, okay, something that just is. Well, what is that? What is something that just is? I don't know. It just is. It's not saying what it is, though. You could say isness, but then your mind is going to know, well, what is isness? I mean, you could just go on and on and on. Like, the human mind literally cannot even process, existence. Like, the human mind, like, it can't even think in a way that could begin to understand what something that is undefinable actually is. And if you think about that long enough, it will literally drive your human brain insane. It will literally burn out trying to process and understand that concept in a defensive way. You know, I believe you can literally try to process something that's unprocessable or truly unknowable, but because your brain, you know, operates the way it does, if you think about it long enough, you're going to try to actually figure it out, and you're not going to be able to, because you can't figure out something that is and both it's something that is and isn't simultaneously, you know. And I think, we we forget that. I feel like we forget just, and it's easy because life is brutal. Life is unpredictable. I don't even want to say brutal. I'm gonna say unpredictable. Life is life. It's a jungle. It's a paradise. It's chaos. Chaos is both beautiful and destructive. It's all encompassing. Chaos isn't just bad. Chaos is good too, because chaos is not. It's constant change. It's never. Nothing is ever the same. Sometimes things are good. Sometimes things are bad. So chaos is neither. It's all in neither. And I just feel like it's so easy to forget that, that is what life is. That is what existing is. That is what existence is. And it really is a miracle. It really is a miracle that we are here. I'm apparently holding a cell phone, making a video talking about something that is and isn't simultaneously, and experiencing being alive and experiencing being able to think about existing and talk about it when, you know, I don't even know what it actually is, and I don't think anybody else does either. We'll probably always try to figure it out because that is just what you do. That is just what the universe does. It tries to understand itself through other organisms that are a part of it. It tries to understand itself through those extensions of itself. I'm an extension of something that cannot directly understand itself. So it uses me as in all other organisms and forms of being, plants, animals, humans, insects, everything. It tries to use these other sensory organisms, sensory organisms. Everything that's an organism is a sense. So it tries to use life forms itself to understand itself, to get other perspective of itself outside of the illusion of oneself. So all life form is basically just a way of sensing, of experiencing, of feeling, of like you can say like a nervous system, like you got your nervous system. That's how your body feels and experiences sensations and hot and cold, and oh man, that feels good. Oh, that don't feel so good. It's something that helps it to feel. We're basically like the nervous system of whatever this is or isn't, or both, and again, I forget that. I think we all forget that this is how fleeting everything is. I don't mean to get all philosophical. I'm just kind of in that mood though. In other words, you know, sometimes I have to kind of just myself what a miracle existence is. Even though I complain and we all do because it is hard or can be, but I've had experiences where I guess you can say I've been to, I'll just say I've experienced another perspective of existing as myself in this avatar or this body. I've had experiences where I've, you know, seen another. I've had I've had I've had different experiences from the perspective of just existing in my body as me. You know, I've had experiences where I've seen that this was just an illusion, basically. Where I've seen that, this is not what it seems, where this is basically just one dream of infinite dreams that is like a sea of infinite dreams. It's so hard to even begin to describe. But basically, what we call physical reality, from what I experience, is in this present moment is literally a sea of infinite energy, um, morphing and shaping into different patterns and waves and formations and information and vibrations and light, all kind of in one, and sound. Um, what this is right here is basically that, as crazy and hard as it is to try to comprehend this. I know how it sounds, but this is we're in a sea right now. We're in this literally in a sea. This is a dream. The dream of your life is like a window, and that window is just one little small pixel in a sea of eternal energy that is constantly morphing, but it's doing it in a way that we can't even sense it within our human brain, within our limited sense or perception of our five senses. We can't perceive that with our limited sensory human brain, right? There's other frequencies, there's other, forms of light and sound and vibration that we can't even see or feel. And even like science has proven that we're never actually touching anything. We're basically it's basically like a force field between us and what we call like physical objects. Is basically we're never actually like touching anything. We're just kind of like getting like, it's like kind of like a when you take two magnets and take the opposite side, and they kind of like, it's just force between them. Well, that's what we're actually doing when we actually interact with anything perceivably solid. It's like it's not actually you're not actually touching it. You're kind of just touching the force of the space between that other electron or some shit like that. um but yeah, so yeah, shit like that. Anyway, but yeah, but that's what this is. Where this is a dream, and that dream is a part of it's like a basically like one tiny pixel in a sea of infinite pixels of all of those different dreams happening and all the beings existing inside of them and believing themselves to be real. It's just literally just, you know, like oh God, I can't even, it's so hard to even comprehend because our brain is just too small. It can't process all that information. I mean, it can kinda, but some things, I'll put it this way. When you're in certain states, and take this with a grain of salt, y'all. Take this with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion, my theory, my belief, whatever. But when you're in certain states, other parts of your brain become activated or come online. So you can do this naturally through meditation, or you can ingest certain things. One of those things would be, let's just say mushrooms you put on pizza. if you get what I'm saying, because I don't know how YouTube is, but like pizza mushrooms, like once you eat these pizza mushrooms, it is my belief that it helps to activate and connect parts of your brain to other branches of, I'll just say, reality or existence or the universe. It literally opens up certain parts of your brain that were not open before. Something about these pizza mushrooms it activates other parts of your brain to reconnect to invisible information or invisible codes or whatever you want to call it, downloads. Your brain is connecting to the universe basically. Once you kind of get this, reconnect to this, I guess you can call it God mind. You just understand everything like so easy. Like what I'm trying to express right now, like you can't say in a words, but your consciousness completely understands it so effortlessly. About you understand all the things you can't really understand right now in your normal state of consciousness. When you ingest certain things or meditate or reach the state through meditation or through some type of lucid dreaming or altered state of consciousness, your brain can understand these things effortlessly because it's knowing. It's not necessarily you're trying to figure it out. It's just you're connected with something that is larger than your regular normal brain can process. It's basically like small computer and then basically like connecting it to all the computers on the entire planet. Like your brain, your processing power, the memory is like exponentially connected to all these infinite powerhouses of computation and information. You know what I'm saying? Like you're connected to everything. And that's what these things do, and some people kind of describe it as like God mind or downloads or anything like that. In my opinion, it taps you back into the source, you know Christ consciousness, stuff like that, But yeah, I mean, I just like when personally I like to watch mine that reminds me or kind of helps reminds me of you know that is ultimately what this is. And I forget it every day. I know everybody else forgets it every day, and I'm not everybody sees things how they see it. So some people may not resonate with my perspective or my narrative or how I see things. But for me, just for me personally, um it's almost like I have to remind myself of you know the theory of what reality seems to be for me to actually continue to appreciate life, because it can seem very mundane when your mind gets stuck in time and when you realize that you know the way that the mind can get stuck in time and forget the fleeting nature of everything is, to me, it's just it even makes the miracle of life that much more amazing and astounding, because the fact that something could create a piece of itself and then immerse itself in itself so well that it forgot that this was a very, very temporary thing, because there's nothing really outside of itself. But the fact that you forgot that and you keep forgetting it over and over again, it makes this so when you remember that, it makes it so so beautiful. And so I once described the experience of being alive and existing when I was in a certain state, when I had an extremely extremely powerful psychedelic experience where my entire reality was literally ripped away. You know, like one of those crazy psychedelic movies you kind of see, like that shit really happened to me. I had one of those crazy crazy experiences that, you know, some people completely lose their minds. Like I went through that, you know, and I came out of it and never looked at anything the same. And even before I did that and had that experience, I still was starting to see reality different. But it was like that experience right there was like almost like what I can only describe as a graduation in my state of consciousness. And I was already kind of expanding my consciousness on my own. I was already lucid dreaming and astral projecting, not really trying to, it just kind of started to spontaneously happen. So like I was already kind of seeing past the veil for a while actually, but that experience right there, it completely tore the lid off the door, or what I mean, I won't say the door. It tore the lid. It opened. It just ripped the door off of what limited illusion of normality of linear time and space I had left after my other experiences. It just blew the roof off. I mean, completely just obliterated, you know, what little bit of, again, normal perception of life and everyday life I had, you know. And I mean, me talking about that experience really can't do it justice, because to this day, I I can't even put into words what really happened because it's so unexplainable. It's just that unexplainable. It's that, and it's that hard to describe because everything happened all at once. And I remember damn near 2 or 3 different realities happening. In one of them I died, one of them I lived, one of them I was in some other dimension talking to some disembodied being that I could not see, I could only hear. And I mean, I to this day I cannot even, I have fragments of it, and even when I think about it and kind of relive that moment, it was beautiful as fuck, but it was also times where I was terrified and sad because, you know, I remember knowing that I left. I remember knowing what it's like to die and feeling I remember feeling the people's energy that I was leaving behind. And you know, I literally heard people crying around me at one point in time. And I mean, like I just know that that experience was extremely 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 both beautiful and traumatizing. But it was more so beautiful because, you know, I came back with a new appreciation for life and existence, even though now and to this day I still, you know, I complain sometimes, and you know, I probably seem like I don't appreciate life. It's just sometimes life can make you feel like that, but don't make no mistake about it. Once you have one of those experiences, it don't matter how frustrated you get with life, how sad and angry you get. Like there's that part of your mind in your memory that you remember what you experienced, and there's going to always be some level of appreciation just because you get to experience, you know, being frustrated and being angry and even being hurt and heartbroken. Like, you get to have these experiences. Not, oh man, they hurt me. Oh no, they I'm sad, or I'm broke, or I'm not good enough, or I'm ugly, or I'm pretty, or whatever the fuck. You get to experience having these emotions. Not, oh, woe is me. You get to be here. And even with all the terrible, horrible things, it's like you get to experience existing. You get to, because there's nothing else to do outside of whatever the fuck this is. It's nothing. So I don't know if y'all really get what I'm saying. When I talk about these kinds of things, it's very, very hard to describe and express. But then again, it's not, because you don't really have to try to, because you really can't say anything right or wrong, because you're just basically trying to express something that's undefinable, But sometimes I just think, again, like I said, I lose track of time. I do it a lot. It's so easy. It's so easy to do. It's so easy for your mind to get stuck. And I've gotten to the point to where if I start to feel like I'm getting stuck, I find ways to basically pull myself out of getting stuck in time. I have to literally kind of pull myself out of myself linearly and be like, okay, you don't want to get stuck here in, whatever your circumstances are, or your negative thought, or and I'm not trying to push positive, being a positivity warrior. And I'm not trying to like push this, fake positivity bullshit, or like this, toxic positivity, because I don't believe in that either. It's just truly just remembering what this is. I'm not even trying to be like, let's just all be positive, and like, it's not even really even about being positive. I mean, that may help you, and I'm not against being positive. Being positive can be a very positive thing. It can be good, but forced positivity and genuine positivity, what I'm saying, optimism, those are like two different things to me. It's like what I would consider genuine optimism is like what I'm saying right now. Like, I'm not walking around like good vibes only, good vibes only, good vibes only. But I'm not saying like it's anything necessarily wrong with that. It's just, for me, it doesn't really, like, my view on positivity, like that approach for me personally is not effective for me. But when I remember like reality, and from my memories, or the illusion of my memories, I guess, when I remember that, and kind of just the nature of reality, that to me, I consider that optimism, because what it does for me personally is it helps me to remember how fleeting and temporary this experience is, and how I can easily not exist in infinite oblivion, or nothingness, or the void, or whatever you want to call it. I could easily not be able to think, not be able to sense, not be able to have experiences, and not have anything to talk about, or care about, or have emotions about, or be passionate about, and the fact that I do, that is a form or a way of how I, maintain, or can have optimism, opposed to just, oh, no negativity over here. Like, it's not like that for me. But it's like, man, I really remember experiencing these experiences where I've seen that this is kind of temporary, and it's a miracle that I'm even able to and it's all fleeting too. As we speak, everything is decaying in every instance. We're on a timer. This is not permanent. And as I see the people around me decaying and aging, as we all are, constantly, until we're not here anymore, It doesn't stop. It's called aging. Our brains and our human ego constructs and language calls it aging, but it's just everything is in a constant state of decay. That's what's happening right now. You just, it's happening at a rate you just can't it, but it's happening, right? You are dying right now. Everything is both dying and being reborn in every instance of eternity. It's in a process of birth and death, infinitely. Waves, cycles. So that's what this is, you know. And so, I'm remembering that, and um it's helping me to, when I get stuck in time or time loops or whatever, that remembering is kind of what I hold on to, or what I use to keep me from getting stuck in time, if that makes sense. And I remember literally saying, when I had that experience, that, um how did I say it? I was talking to this disembodied consciousness or being, and this being was telling me how, every moment of existence is precious. This is where I get this from. I wasn't getting it from me. I didn't make this. I heard this being express to me. It was like every moment is precious. Like, basically, like every moment you're experiencing this life, because it's like, once it fades and once you realize what this was and you come back to remembering, like, when you it's like merging back with the source or God. Once it's over, like, you remember what this whole illusion was the entire time, and you remember that you've done this. And I know this sounds cliche because everybody, but this is really how it is. Like, it's, once you forget, then you forget. This is how we're here now, and we think we're just alive, and we're going to work and we're paying taxes, and it's like, yeah, but you forgot where you came from. No, you forgot you literally came from an infinite sea of, nothingness and everything, and descended down into this, what appears to be like, oh, we're walking around the earth and grass and buildings, and it's like, yeah, but just remember, like, you remember it's there, you just forgot. And I know it sounds like bullshit in a way, but like, I'm being honest. Like, I'm talking about very real experiences that I still have in my mind of crossing over and then coming back. As weird as that sounds, I know it sounds like bullshit to a lot of people, because if I hadn't experienced what I experienced, I'd be like, look at this guy talking about crossing over, and get the fuck out of here. I would say some shit like that. I would say, because it sounds kind of like, it does sound kind of nonsensical, and it's going to sound nonsensical, but I'm telling the God honest truth. Thing is, linear time, like, when you come back into the experience outside of the perspective of being in linear time, someone that kind of just, I guess, their consciousness shoots back down into linear time, into one of infinite quantum versions of themselves, and is talking about this crazy bullshit. Y'all gonna be like, what the fuck you talking about? I'm telling you what I'm talking about. I've been telling you. I ain't making this shit up. And no, like, I'm not a fucking only one. Like, this shit is happening to everybody at some point in their evolution or existence. You forget over and over again until you remember. When you remember, you come back, and then eventually you forget again, and then it just goes on and over and over. And it happens over and over again. Like, I believe every soul at some point forgets, and then eventually you always come back full circle to yourself just to forget again. It's a constant cycle of forgetting and remembering the eternal self. That's all that you can do, because there's nothing else outside of the all, whatever the fuck that is. Anyway, oh, what's going on, Lucas? What's going on? Pardon? What now? Oh no, man, I was just talking about just eternity and um just kind of remembering like the nature of reality, and I was just kind of reminiscing on an experience I had, and I was just kind of talking about it and expressing it, the best that I could remember it. But yeah, that's basically what I was talking about. And I was talking about how, sometimes I have to, remind myself of that awareness or of that truth that kind of allows me to, because I feel like we all get kind of stuck in time due to circumstances and things that happen that make us feel very trapped. And it's mainly like life circumstances. I feel like we all get I feel like we all get very, you know, I'll put it this way: this life can be very, you know, um, hard to deal with sometimes, and trauma and stress, all that can contribute to your mind getting stuck in time or getting, you know, stuck in time loops. And time loop is just pretty much just getting stuck in a certain, you know, point in your life that you really can't seem to move forward. You just kind of just, you get stuck, mentally, physically, whatever. You're just stuck. You can't move forward, can't move forward in your experience or what you're trying to manifest or whatever. And again, this still happens to me, but I have to remind myself by coming back to that universal mind perspective of the privilege and the gift of life, because like it's like damn, if that's what this is, and that's what's happening right now, and this is all fleeting and literally going away in every instance, you know, moment by moment, this energy is withering away or dissolving away into nothingness. If that is what's happening, then, you know, if I have this temporary experience to experience, then it's almost like what else would I do but to try to experience something or do something that I've never done, no matter how unrealistic or crazy it might seem, because that's what life is. Like that's, what I'm saying, like we're just here literally just in every instance slowly dissolving away or decaying into nothingness, you know? And we have this brief moment of eternity that seems long, but 80 years is literally nothing in the eternity of God. It's like you blink and that was our entire life. But with the illusion of linear time, our brain is like, oh, I got to live a whole life. And it's like that literally just ended like a second ago, your entire life, according to the universe. Right. So, yeah, it's just, you know, for me personally, remembering, like, again, if that's what this is, and then, how could I do anything other than do exactly what I want to do or try to while I'm here on this limited timer? With every passing second, I'm dissolving away into, you know, eternity, into God, back into God. Back into, I'm in this illusion or this dream that God's having right now, known as me and, you know, this guy I call Omar. I'm literally just a dream of God, and it's just crazy to think about. So, you know, I guess it just feels good to know that I guess there's other people that understand that. Apparently, seemingly it seems like there are, and ultimately like we're all just on the same, infinite journey of, experiencing, existing, and trying to understand, what it all means, if anything. Maybe it means nothing, but maybe it does. I don't know, but we're all here experiencing, existing. We're all like babies, you know, metaphorically speaking, kind of feeling our way through the darkness of eternity, not truly knowing what exists outside of the awareness of ourself, outside of the experiences of our senses or our organs or organisms that feel for us, that process for us. Anyway, I didn't mean to get all weird and get all kind of woo woo on you. Sorry. This is just kind of who I am now. I mean, I kind of feel like I've always been this person, but just not so much. Even from like a young kid, I used to ask my mother, I was like, do you believe aliens are real? What's out there in outer space? Like, I was like 6 and 7, asking about aliens and planets and what's out there in outer space. You know, to my knowledge, my brother and sister weren't asking questions like that. But me, like, I'm the nigga that's asking about aliens and UFOs and, you know, I think I asked my mom, like, where's God? And, you know, where, like, if he in outer, like, is he in the sky? Is he in outer space? I think I asked my mom, like, where is he at in outer space? Like, from a young age, I was like questioning shit. I'm like, where's this nigga at? Like, he's in space and in heaven. Well, and I was like, well, where's heaven at? Well, where's that at? I'm like, okay, this God character, like, when we say he's in the sky or in heaven, well, how high up is heaven over the sky? Because you think about heaven, you're thinking about, like, okay, the sky, he's up in the sky somewhere. I was like, okay, well, high up. I was like, well, how high in the sky is heaven, where God is? Like, how high? Like, if I was to just go up in the sky, like, how long would it take me to run it into God? Like, hey, what's up, nigga? Like, how high in the sky do I have to go? Or how high in the sky past space? Because, if you go up, then you're going to eventually hit space, right? Or outer space, rather. So how long do I have to go up into outer space, meaning traveling out of the atmosphere or the sphere or the realm of Earth, whatever the fuck that even means? How high do I have to pierce through this sphere of reality or this firmament or dome, whatever you think it is? Who gives a fuck? But how long do I have to go up into this thing we call outer space before I reach heaven, where God is at? And when I investigated, the question, and this is me as a young kid, like, that deeply, like, nobody really seemed to fucking know. But we're all talking about God being in the fucking sky in heaven. But when you ask people, well, where's heaven at? Well, it's somewhere up there. What the fuck does that mean? You're teaching me, like, this is God and he's somewhere, but you can't even tell me, like, where the fuck that is. And we're writing this, but back then I didn't know that it was more so like symbolic of a realm or dimension. But back then I'm like, I want to understand where this nigga's at. This nigga is, like, literally, like, telling everybody what to do. I'm just curious about where the nigga actually exists at. And I didn't even mean it in like a, hostile way. I was curious as a kid. I wanted to know where this dude was at. Like, if you tell me God is in the sky in heaven, I'm going to be like, well, where is that? How high is that? Because I want to try to get there. If it's up, don't ask me how I was a kid I was going to do it, but I wanted to try to figure out how I can get there just so I can go and, I don't know, one day talk to this nigga and be like, hey, what's good with you? What's popping? Damn, nigga, like, what you been doing for all eternity? I just have so many questions. I just want to know things you know. Like, that's the type of time I was on. I wanted to just chop it up with God, be like, damn, like, I bet you've seen a lot of shit. That's the kind of shit I was on. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna end this here because I have to actually get ready to do my first round. I actually may get back on tonight, on my actual laptop, depending on, how I feel. I don't know. But yeah, this was just it was kind of like a random video. I just kind of felt like getting on, because again, I am random and I'm a rando. I'm a random person, I mean, I can't really explain it anything other than that. That's just, how it is, I guess. I don't know. Um, but yeah, I felt like just having a random live session. But anyway, Lucas again. Lucas said something about I got a thumbs up. Got my thumbs up, my one thumbs up. I appreciate you, Lucas. Lucas and Yahweh always shows love. Although I don't know why. I think Yahweh be getting mad at me because he'll leave sometimes random comments on my videos. Like, he commented about something on one of my other videos, and he was like, said something about he wanted to, like, hoping he wasn't alive or something like that. And I said some shit to try to, encourage him or something like that. And the nigga was basically like, fuck you. I'm just like, okay, well, whatever, I'm like, I was just trying to, encourage you in some way, shape, or form. The nigga was just like, fuck you. All right, then. Well, you have a nice day too, sir. I'm sorry your day is that bad. I was just trying to encourage you some. Okay? Don't get mad at me. Shit, I didn't do it. I mean, if you need someone to talk to, just say, hey, I need somebody to talk to. I say it all the time. You want someone to talk to, just start talking. I try to say, I would like to think this is a judgment-free area. I'm not perfect, but I try to, not make people feel judged, even though I think we all judge sometimes. But typically, I try to think of people as myself because I don't want people to judge me if I'm vulnerable. So I think for the world to become a little bit lighter, we have to stop judging as much. And sometimes it's hard because when people do certain things and you've had certain experiences, and then your mind automatically associates, certain people with certain experiences, or certain things about life that just seems unfair. We do judge, but again, I tried my best to see other people and think, how I would want to feel if I was being vulnerable, and give people that same safe space to the best of my ability. But again, we're imperfect, and sometimes what we've experienced can bring up certain, trauma, which causes us to judge, and that is just a safety mechanism. It's just a way that our brain tries to keep us from anything traumatic or, unpleasant, like undesirable experiences, as a protection mechanism, or a survival mechanism rather. But anyway, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and end this live video now. And again, I may get on tonight again on my laptop, just depending on what I got going on. I am, trying to get other stuff done. Like, there's other designs I'm trying to finalize, and I'm also trying to get started. on. I'm trying to get into making videos now and understanding how to really design good videos. Like I'm trying. It's a lot to learn, but it's very interesting to me. And one thing I like about it so far, using AI generating software and stuff like that. Yes, AI does a lot of the work for you, but even to use AI generations, it still takes a lot of creativity and imagination, because to really create these, you know, generations, you really have to become a director, which means you really have to tap into your imagination and literally like describe and describe literally every detail in that clip, because you're basically literally designing an entire reality, because all the generator does is it literally takes every detail of that realm or that world and literally creates an entire dream out of your details, your information, your prompts, and you literally have to tell this. You have to basically design an entire world from scratch, simply from your memory or your imagination. And so you literally have to kind of like become a director. And I think it really is good practice for actually being a director, because like when I'm talking to chat, like I'm like, no, this scene has to be like this. It has to happen like this, and even like with me, like, because the way that sword works right now, you can only do small sections of videos at a time, and you have to stitch them together to actually make an entire video. So it takes a lot of coordination and like setting things up in sequence, and also setting those actual world sequences, those worlds and sequences with all the details and information, in linear events. You have to do it all, in sequence and organized in a way where it comes out to one scene or one movie or one short movie or clip or whatever. It's just very interesting, and it's 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 kind of challenging, but it's my brain like enjoys that work for some reason, because it's like I get to really tap into, like, I feel like my one of my gifts and talents is like my imagination. I have a very, very vivid imagination, and I feel like this is a way that I can kind of like slowly learn how to kind of harness that energy or that power in using it, something like AI or like a software, to render entire imaginative worlds and make a movie out of it. I think that's fucking fire, like, for real. So it takes a lot of creativity even to use AI, because again, you have to really become a director. You have to really have a vision and be able to actually like map out and literally like create an entire digital world or dream or movie from scratch, from the dialogue to the movements to every small detail. It's kind of like being God, but on like another level. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy. But anyway, I'm gonna end this here, y'all. Have a great day, or well, great night, because it's night here. Talk to y'all later.